all right. What's up, boys? It's about that time. You already know what time it is. It is SEC After Dark. What's up, gentlemen? Joining me is Stephen Willis, Jake Thomas, Jeb Beecham, the boss man and hammer himself.
And the Terminator. Don't forget about the Terminator. Right?
And the Terminator.
Feeling good.
Get in the chopper.
Get in the chopper.
Hey, I just want to be the first to say I've been telling y'all Alabama's back. So there we go.
Yeah, you have definitely never wavered at all.
Not whatsoever. You have not put your fandom in question.
Nope.
Not one single minute. I'll tell you who's not back.
Oh, boss man.
Boss man. Yeah.
He's not back.
Boss man's not back either. Well, that made my joke.
Fix something. I'm back.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we missed you. Before we get into this monumental ass kicking that took place between my team and Steve's team on Saturday, I want to let you guys know that this episode is presented by betonline.ag, your number one source for all of your sports wagering needs. If you want to bet it, guess what? betonline.ag has it. They have all the live odds, stats, anything that you want to bet on: NFL, college football, NBA, NHL, you name it, they've got it. If you missed your chance on baseball, well, I'll just say you missed your chance. So betonline.ag has a casino. So after all the games, just go play some blackjack or some Caribbean stud poker or whatever, baccarat or whatever game you like to play. Go play it in the online casino. It's there for you. So betonline.ag, the game starts here.
You know what time it is? It's time to get locked on pickles, everybody. That's Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles, that is. They offer a wide variety of Cajun spice products like pickles, green beans, okras, even carrots, and asparagus. It's a family-owned company with homemade on the coast of Mississippi. Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles, they've been pleasing pickle lovers for over 20 years, and they have become the South's favorite pickle. These are truly the best pickles you'll ever have. A strong dill flavored with a Cajun punch, no over sour taste. And this being a small business, they strive to keep the produce fresh and local from the start, keeping the final pickle product extra crispy and crunchy. You can find these pickle products online at thepickledstore.com or at your local Rouse's, Markets, or other Gulf Coast grocery stores near you. Be sure to like Stewart's Cajun Dill product on Facebook and Instagram. Try these pickles, okra, and beans today. You will not be disappointed. Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles, the South's favorite pickle.
All right, Steve, now that you've warmed your voice up, that was an interesting game. Georgia could not handle that defensive line. Didn't seem like they wanted to. The play calling sucked. Carson Beck was awful again. And everything was just – and the defense was I guess the clock struck midnight on this defense. Like, they weren't good. And
it was beautiful, actually.
But like here's what baffles me. Like, Georgia starts the game by just pummeling Jackson Dart, getting a pick, taking it down into the red zone, scoring 7 plays later, which that's a whole nother issue. You start the game 7-0, you've got all the momentum, and then lo and behold, Austin Simmons, of all people, walks into the game and just marches right down the field like he's going against the scout team. What the hell?
Mm-hmm. Well, we found Kirby's weak spot, and it's left-handed quarterbacks that wear number 13. If you do that, you'll be all right. But that settled down the whole stadium. Once that happened, Georgia was whipped, honestly. And Ole Miss's defensive line just went to work, especially, I think, was it Tate Ratledge, who was just coming back. He was a little bit injured, and Ole Miss found a way to take advantage of him early in the game. And by the time they figured out exactly what they need to do with a bunch of quick passes and all that, their downfield stuff was gone. The rain made it to where, honestly, the offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, probably didn't trust Carson Beck enough. Ole Miss got up by 2 scores, and it was over. It was the most dominating game I've seen played against Georgia since the teens. Since way back when. This is the lowest yardage total he's had since 2017. And just so, since we're talking in this time frame, the last time the Georgia Bulldogs lost back-to-back games, it was to Ole Miss and Tennessee.
That's right.
That's right.
deja vu all over again, right?
Sorry, you were taking off.
Yeah, you were.
landing.
I don't even notice it on mine. That's crazy. I luckily I didn't say anything worthwhile, but yeah, it's deja vu all over again. I gave a nice little Yogi Berra quote, but yeah, this I've never seen. Well, I have seen Mike Bobo like this before, so let me stop myself before I say that. But this was just, yeah, is going to be him. Yes, I believe that. I truly, I really do believe that.
He's 2 plus 4 inches. I'm dead serious about that.
Yeah.
I just thought that at least for one drive, he wasn't going to be him, right? I thought for at least one drive, Georgia would be like, hey, it's a backup quarterback. Let's terrorize him and let's go. And
Austin Simmons threw a pass on, it was a 3rd down. The last 3rd down he converted before Ole Miss scored their touchdown. It was about a 20-yard pass he completed.
Was it the same route?
It was the same route that were completely triangled up. If he underthrew it low, it was going to be picked off. If he overthrew it, it was going to be picked off. There was only a small window for him to fit it into it, and I'll be danged if he didn't do it. And
he did it.
And he meant to do it. And that's the really cool thing. It wasn't an accidental thing where they just accidentally completed it. But yeah, he's going to be big. And that drive right there, he's the reason Caleb Cunningham committed to Ole Miss today. Caleb Cunningham seeing Austin Simmons in that drive is the reason the top 25 wide receiver in the country committed to Ole Miss today.
Yeah, I believe it. And the reason why he's not committed to Georgia, I don't know if he was ever targeting Georgia.
Oh, he flipped from Alabama.
Yeah,
so.
he was at Alabama.
But yeah, so I like to always say, okay, what's the redeemable qualities from this game? There are none for Georgia. I can't pick it out, honestly. And I'm not usually like this doomsday after a game, after a loss, but like
I have not seen Georgia get this thoroughly dominated in such a long. I don't remember the last time it happened. It was probably against Alabama, but it was like early Alabama, like that time frame, like Jalen Hurts maybe.
They were shell shocked, dude. Yeah. Like it was unbelievable.
Their only touchdown was right after the pick, right at the beginning of the game.
That was a 4-minute drive to go 21 yards. That was so much work for Georgia.
It was.
I'm ready for this Carson Beck experiment to be over. I know that I know that people in the Georgia camp are tired of it too, but I'm ready to see what Jaden Rashada has. He may not be any better, but I'm ready to actually see if he's any better.
Kirby Smart, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Kirby Smart is in his Bill O'Reilly F it will do it live phase because he offered Juju Smith or whatever and Kamario Taylor immediately after that ball game. He's like, no, we're not doing this anymore. We need some dual threat guys, no more statues back there.
Yeah, and as he should have. And I think he needs to make a call down to North Avenue and say, hey, Buster, about why we didn't pick you 2 years ago. Would you like to come back? We'll pay you $1.5 million.
Buster's going to get a head job this year.
Absolutely.
If he wants it. Yes. He could have had I think he could have had the Georgia State job this past year.
Yeah.
He was a finalist. He's gonna I think he's gonna be selective too, just from what I'm hearing. So.
Steve, I'll give you your flowers too here. I don't love to do it, but you were right last week. You said that the rain would play into Ole Miss's favor, and you thought that in the trenches that Ole Miss would be the better team. And I was going off of history with Georgia. I had to see it to believe it, and we saw it on Saturday. Ole Miss was the better team in the trenches. Lane Kiffin, his change in recruiting strategy and portal strategy to get guys in the trenches who could go up against the likes of a Georgia and Alabama. You saw it pay off on Saturday because those guys were getting after it. And I'm looking at it now, 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. Those guys were all over the field.
It was unbelievable.
Ole Miss has nearly 20 more tackles for loss than the number 2 ranked team in college football right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
That's sickening.
Is that good?
That is
I think
domination.
That's good.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. But what the important thing is, not many people are talking about this. Lane Kiffin's the story of this game. And the reason he was the story of this game,
because he's
Alabama and Georgia, the strategy against Ole Miss over the years is just wait and let Ole Miss self-destruct. Let Lane make that costly mistake, take momentum, and then get ahead, and they can't come back. Lane's like, no, I'm not making that mistake. There was a time in the fourth quarter of this game that he was seriously not thinking about going for it. He just didn't want to kick the field goal to risk it being blocked. He just like take a knee. It was like Red Boyu from the Water Boy just sitting there. He's like, how you like my new offense? That's what he was seriously considering doing, because he knew that Georgia was not going to score on his team unless he helped them.
Yeah. You saw a growth spurt from Lane this past weekend for sure.
It was his best coaching job that he's done since he's taken over Ole Miss for sure.
Yep.
I was thoroughly impressed with how they navigated Georgia's defense, how they put them constantly in bad positions and forced Georgia's defense to communicate, which they didn't do whatsoever. They were busting coverages all over the place, and it was brutal, man. That was tough to watch.
Lane started game planning against Georgia right after that Athens game last year.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever people say that game was circled, that game was circled. He had analysts figuring out Kirby's defense and looking at ways to attack it all during the offseason. You saw them running Texas routes. You haven't seen an Ole Miss team run a Texas route in 15 years, and all of a sudden they're converting fourth downs by putting wide receivers in the backfield, running Texas route, going one-on-one against the linebacker. They knew exactly what Kirby and Glenn Schumann were going to do defensively, and they just had something for it. They weren't going to take any chances, take necessary risk and all of that stuff, but once they got the lead and once they figured out what was going on, it was over. It was just a thorough domination.
Yeah, I'm so let's talk playoffs.
Well, just a second, real quick. Nathan Rutherford says, after personally watching him play baseball last year, his accuracy was never a question for me. He's talking about Austin Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
The atmosphere also in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium was something that I'm not sure I'll ever get to experience again. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. That was by far the best atmosphere in the history of Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. I mean, it wasn't even particularly close.
Yeah.
Every time I see VHS, I just chuckle because I'm thinking of
Yeah.
Like these Ole Miss people, they're just stuck in 1992 with their VHSs.
Sanyo.
Watching real film, baby.
Panasonic. We're going to dub us a copy.
Corey, before we jump into the playoff stuff,
Playoffs.
we've got like a 6-play tie right now in the SEC with all
that ties into it too. Like that's gonna have playoffs.
Okay, because I mean, how do we decipher that? Who's going to get to go? Play for the SEC championship game. It's a mess right now.
Do you know who the most important team in the SEC is to the playoff chase right now?
A&M.
No,
Oh, it ain't. I thought it was A&M.
They're not themselves in the playoff, but they're going to have a whole bunch of say about who goes.
Yeah.
And it's the Auburn Tigers.
Oh God.
Oh, yeah, A&M and
they got A&M.
If
If Auburn can sneak up on A&M, which they can do, Hugh Freeze can pull something out of his hat.
Totally.
Yep.
I think A&M's beating Texas, and when
I think
A&M
so, too.
beats Texas, Texas is out.
Mm-hmm.
Texas will not make the playoff with 2 losses. They just won't.
Mm-hmm.
A&M will be in unless Auburn takes care of them. They'll kind of take Texas's place. That's kind of an elimination game, one way or the other. But then you have that free shot in Bryant Denny that Auburn has, and everybody knows that Auburn can just pop up and get you from time to time, even though Tuscaloosa is a little bit of a different animal. I understand that. But Auburn doing that is going to have a large say. Honestly, if Ole Miss hosts, like Ole Miss is thinking about hosting and all of that, they probably need help from Auburn to take down A&M, and then A&M beat Texas, and Ole Miss will probably be a host in that first round game.
That's a high mighty ass though for Auburn though. I mean, it's possible, but
yeah, that's
get
2 in a row.
Listen, Auburn is in the top 10 in the country in yards per play offensively, and like in the top 10 in the country in least yards allowed per play. They actually played well. If they can play clean, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
If
all you need is that one game.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He forgot it. Like when they were playing Vandy, he's like, yeah, Jarquez Hunter, he's ripping off 5-6 yards of carry. Let's put him on the bench.
Put him on the bench for 2 quarters.
Yeah.
Rick and Bonnie says nothing on the Bama LSU game. That was such a thorough ass whooping. I don't think anything needs to be said about that game.
I think that game speaks for itself. Like Alabama was like, we're tired of getting ridiculed. And
the governor's fake tiger was there, and the governor said he was the only one that showed up at the game.
I'll say this about the game. There's 2 things. Oh, go ahead, Hammer.
Oh, I was going to ask you a question, Jake. So you can just include this in whatever you're going to say. I don't think Milroe was ever on an injury report earlier this year, but was he dinged up at all? Because he just looked so much. I mean, we've always known he can run, but he just looked awesome in that game. And I'm like, was he hurt against Tennessee or was he, hurt against Vandy? Like, what happened?
I know he looked healthy, as they said. But I don't know. He's never been on an injury report, but he just didn't. He didn't seem like himself in the last couple of games, and then he looked fairly good against Missouri, and then just dominated it last week against LSU. But 2 things stood out for me in that LSU game. About 2 minutes left to go in the game, they showed the press box of the Alabama coaches. They're just empty. They all just went on the field, pettiness. And then the other thing was we was blitzing 8 guys with 40 seconds left, and Brian Kelly's over there yelling at the ref, they're bringing effing 8 guys. It ain't fair and all that. It's just, I was like, oh yeah. Well, we try to let you give up. Yeah.
We found LSU's kryptonite.
Yeah.
I mean, LSU can do very well unless you install the single wing or the Notre Dame box. There's apparently no answer that they figured out in the history of football of how to stop a single wing offense. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do think Vandy has a real shot in Tiger Stadium because that team has so much trouble stopping the quarterback run.
You might want to jump back on the Vandy train for that one, but that's going to be an 11 a.m. kick too, which that's also LSU's kryptonite.
Yeah.
By
the
way, that's crap. That is crap that they don't have to play day games because it's hot in Louisiana. Oh my goodness! In the southeastern United States, it's warm. Come on, get over yourselves.
Yeah.
It's hot everywhere.
Importing fake tigers, man. Screw y'all.
Yeah, that's nonsense. A&M gets 11 a.m. games all the time. So
yeah, Ole Miss didn't have a night game this year. The closest Ole Miss had to a night game was at the end of the Georgia game.
Good Lord. I think Tennessee's only had night games. That's never happened to us before.
Yeah.
And then you had Mark Stoops complaining. It's like, we only have night games. It's like, good God. That's how you know Kentucky's Big Ten.
Yeah.
That's how you know that.
Yeah.
I want to be on Big Noon Kickoff.
Yeah. Oh, God. This is funny. Okay, yes. So it's going to be 11 a.m. kick. Brian Kelly's going to bitch about it, and Vandy's going to kick their ass because they're not going to be able to stop Diego Pavia. Book it.
Oh,
it's happening next week, though, not this week.
Bama wants Georgia to win. Or you want the win over Georgia for Alabama to be the biggest thing on your resume. And you need Georgia to beat Tennessee to do that. That's the same situation that Ole Miss has. Ole Miss wants desperately Georgia to win. And Arkansas, I guess if they're trying to get a Tax Slayer Bowl invitation, they want Tennessee to win.
They're competing with Vandy. Vandy's going to get that Tax Slayer Bowl invite to Jacksonville for the last game in Everbank Stadium for the next 2 years.
Yeah, because
where are they going to play the Gator Bowl or the Tax Slayer Bowl?
That I don't know, but they're going to play Georgia, Florida. They're going to move it 1 year to Atlanta and 1 year to Tampa.
I'm sorry. Are you saying this weekend Tennessee can piss off Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss all at the same time?
Yes, it would be a perfect.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy this game so much.
Watch them lose, probably.
Which, by the way, since we're talking about the Georgia rebound versus Tennessee now, is Nico going to play?
Oh, no. He definitely is not. So there's no reason to just even prepare for him. He's not going to be there. Don't worry. No, I have no idea. We're getting a lot of different answers. I think he'll play. Yes. I can't imagine them keeping him out unless he really does have a concussion or something, but I don't think he does.
I listen. Luckily, Tennessee has the win over Alabama because if they didn't, they'd have the same problem that Texas has.
Mm-hmm.
And that is they haven't beaten anybody. So if Tennessee loses to Georgia, they kind of slide in that queue behind Georgia. So you got all the 2-loss teams, and there's so many of them. I think it'll be interesting what happens, but Tennessee, if they lose to Georgia, they might actually need help for the playoff.
The problem with Tennessee's schedule is everybody was supposed to be good, and then they just all ended up being bad.
Well, same thing happened with Texas. Texas had Michigan on the schedule in the Big House.
Yeah, and you would think.
Yeah.
But no, Texas is terrible this year. I mean, Michigan. Sorry, Michigan's terrible. So,
yeah, they are.
I wish Texas was terrible.
Yeah,
right.
me too. No, and I understand all the reasons Georgia's probably going to rebound this weekend, but I don't know how you could watch that last game and think, oh, they're going to just destroy Tennessee in the next game. And Georgia's got stuff to work on too, so it'll be interesting. But I think Nico will be fine. Dylan Sampson will be fine. I don't know about Deontay Thornton. We did lose our top receiver too. We were losing a lot of people in that game. I think that's the main reason they kept Nico out. We were just dropping like flies on that field.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that gives me pause in this game is, do you know what happened the week before they put that demolition on Ole Miss last year?
No.
Missouri almost beat them. They almost beat them. And Georgia played terrible, and everybody's like, oh, this is it. This is over. And then all of a sudden, Ole Miss came out there, and you looked like the 85 Bears were playing on the other side. So it's a night game in Athens. They don't get many of those.
So they have all day to think about getting their ass kicked. Carson Beck has all day to think about people in orange.
There's no doubt you have the talent, but
something's screwy with this team. Like I've said all year, I think the Texas game is starting to become more of the outlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second half against Alabama. Yeah, absolutely.
Second half against Alabama and the Texas game are more of the outliers than the other games, like Mississippi State. Like you made that one interesting. Auburn made that interesting before you pulled away. Ole Miss, you get your ass handed to you. Alabama, you get your ass handed to you in the first half, and then you turn it on, and it's too little too late. Florida, third-string quarterback dices you up. Like, that should have been a red flag. Who else? Clemson, you had an awful first half, but you pulled away. Clemson just hadn't shaken the rust yet, but they've since become a better team. Who else am I leaving out here that we played poorly against? We just haven't put things away.
Florida, at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, but even that Texas game, I mean, it was a great game, obviously, but it was all defense. I mean, the offense turned the ball over a bunch, got a bunch of short fields. It was
except for against
they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Which really, I mean, this game could be low scoring. Tennessee has not given up 20 points this season to anyone, including Alabama. So who knows? And they have one of the best rushing offenses in the league. So who knows? This could be interesting. But I still think they have to have Nico out there.
Well, I said on our show earlier tonight, I don't think it'll happen because I think these teams, there's likelihood of some turnovers and some short field. But I wouldn't be shocked, especially if Nico doesn't play, if this is like a 9-6 2011 Bama LSU where it's just defenses pounding each other into the ground, because I don't trust Georgia's offense. And if Nico, even with Nico, I don't know, especially if Georgia comes out to play on defense, I don't know how much Tennessee could score, but especially if he's not in the game, then I don't know who scores.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
I don't see there's one player on Georgia's offense that I really trust right now, and I can barely trust him, is Dylan Bell. He's a dude, but
I'm gonna be honest. What was weird, Georgia did not seem to get the tight ends involved as much as they were relying on Brock Bowers and those tight ends a year ago.
Ole Miss did a good job taking them away and putting pressure on Beck, and Beck was just shell-shocked.
But I mean, a decent offensive coordinator would figure out a way to scheme that open.
Stop you right there. I'll stop you right there.
I mean, they put up 600 yards. They put up over 600 yards on Pete Golding last year. And now, granted, Ole Miss added Walter Nolan and Ole Miss added Princely and Monmielen, but a lot of the same dudes on defense were on the field.
You had Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers. You had Kendall Milton, Dejon Edwards. Like, you had a completely different offense.
Yeah.
Those are some dudes. Like Milton and Edwards, they're on NFL rosters. They're not playing. They're on NFL rosters.
I like Frazier. I think he's going to be a really good running back, but he's just a true freshman. He runs so hard.
He runs hard, but he does, like, right now the stats don't back up what he's really capable of. And there's nothing to like base it on to be like to project like he's going to be a great running back, but you see it like the way he runs, you see it in some of his actions, but it's just the stats aren't there yet. I don't think Kirby fully trusts him just yet.
Well, he has a problem putting the ball on the ground.
Yeah.
And you're not ever going to get the trust of your coach if you're putting the ball on the ground. I mean, it's just kind of the way this works.
And if you're throat slashing in a game where you should be up by 4 touchdowns, that's not good either.
Before we get out of here, everybody, this is a game that I've been really fired up about for 8 months. Arkansas and Texas. This is an old Southwest Conference rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
Arkansas basically invented horns down. I mean, this game means a ton. You look at the injury report, Taylor Green probable, Jaquindon Jackson might play in this ball game as well. Arkansas looks fairly healthy. Now, they do have the 3 defensive backs that are out, and Sark's going to probably see what his buddy did against them a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to try and replicate that. But the difference in this game and that game is Quinn Ewers is a statue. Jackson Dart is not. You cannot play 2-man against Jackson Dart. You can play some 2-man against Quinn Ewers and be pretty successful doing it. If you can keep the things in front of you and keep them from going out the gate, I think you have a chance to make this interesting because a Bobby Petrino offense is going to score some points.
Yeah. Coming off a bye too, so Arkansas's had time to prep. We got to hope, right? As Aggie fans or just anti-Texas people, we don't want Texas to come into the SEC and make it to Atlanta in year 1. All right, everybody can agree on that. So somebody's got to take them out, whether it's A&M or Arkansas. But
did Missouri do that?
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
Like 2 years in a row or something like that.
Yeah. No, that was sad.
Yeah, that's whenever the quarterback was James Franklin, and that's when Vandy was good with James Franklin.
Yo,
Yeah, those were rough.
Boy, Jeb, what was y'all doing in Tennessee in Georgia at that time?
Oh God, well we had
That
Derek
was
Dooley, I think. So,
Yeah. Oh,
Georgia in
those were the dark years. We don't talk about those.
Georgia in 2013 had, I think, 20 season-ending injuries. All ACLs. I think that's when we made a change in strength and conditioning that year. 2012 was the year. No, Missouri didn't make it their first year because 2012 Georgia made it. Georgia played Bama, and that's when Bama curb stomped Notre Dame in the national championship.
Yeah, that's right. That was Aaron Murray.
Yeah.
So it would have been the next years.
13 and 14 were the back-to-backs.
mm-hmm.
And that's when Georgia had Hudson Mason in 14, and that was when you started to see Richt. Like, that was the first year of Mark Richt's burnout.
Yeah, basically that was Connor Shaw and Missouri. Those were the 2 teams.
Yeah.
That was South Carolina and Missouri.
Yeah. And then 13 was Auburn. No, 14 was Auburn with Nick Marshall. No. What year did –
Yeah, 14 was Nick Marshall because that was the prayer and Jordan Hare.
Yep.
No, that was the 13 season where they lost to Florida State in the national championship, right?
No, that was 14. That was the prayer and Jordan Hare. That was the one where Nick Marshall threw it up in the air, and it was against Georgia, and he caught it at the end of the game, the Hail Mary or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the following week was the kick 6, and that's when everybody knew that this was built on an Indian burial ground.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then 15
burn that damn thing to the ground.
The Fatone Batua game against Florida, where you knew that's when you knew Mark Richt was gone. Was when he started Fatone Batua against Florida, who was like the 3rd string quarterback at Georgia.
Hey, Bama did that in 15. Yeah, the year they won the national title is just like that was the Cooper Bateman game against Ole Miss. They ended up losing.
Mm-hmm.
That Alabama played Georgia that year in Athens. That's the last time they played in Athens. It was monsoon, and I think that was probably the worst that Georgia had lost to Alabama under Nick Saban.
Is that the one they're dressed for a funeral?
No, that was 08.
No,
okay.
Yeah.
15 was like it was 15. 08 was just a storm brewing, and it was just like a perfect tidal wave. 15 was just pathetic.
Okay.
Like it was Bama picking on like the wimpy kid.
Okay.
Like that's what Georgia was. Georgia was the wimpy kid that was getting bullied in that game. Like it was just you just watch that game and you go, how did Georgia become this pathetic?
God, it's almost been 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. Steve, I think we were doing a show that year. You and me and Jason.
Probably. Yeah.
I think
probably. Yeah.
Around the SEC. But anyway, so yeah, I say all of that to say that I think Texas they see the light at the end of the tunnel now, so they're just gonna haul ass to Atlanta at this point, and I think there's not a whole lot I don't think Arkansas is going to be able to do about it. I mean, they showed that against Florida, which everyone was like, "Oh, Florida," and then everybody's like, "Oh, wait, no."
It feels like Texas is starting to hit their stride at the right time, and the last time we saw Arkansas come off a bye, that everyone thought that they were going to look so good, they went out and lost 34-10 to LSU. So I don't.
The following week they also lost by
I don't really think that bye week matters too much. You got Texas.
It's more of I buy Texas. It's more of it's more of I don't buy Arkansas.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not fully sold on Arkansas. I mean, they might play good for a couple of quarters, and then after halftime, you're like, okay, wait, why was I scared about this game?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, Texas's defense is the best in the SEC as well, and we're talking. Arkansas loves to turn the ball over. They turn the ball over a lot. I think they've turned the ball over 15 times this year. And Texas is, I don't know if they're like +6 or 7, I think, in turnover margin. The defense has 20 turnovers on the year. I expect Arkansas to turn the ball over a couple times.
Did we show this comment earlier?
Is he trying to get blocked?
Oh, geez. That's crazy.
That band is going to be marching on Thanksgiving when we beat Texas. So everybody will be thanking us.
Listen, what Georgia just went through, I don't think anybody is prepared for what they're going to see. Texas is walking into that. Yeah. They have that all in front of 10 years worth of angst and hate and want to and all of that. I do not think that can be discounted. If Texas can take an L from Arkansas, that'd be great. Kentucky, blah, whatever, because they're probably going to lose that game to Texas A&M. Either Texas or A&M has to take an additional L for the Bamas and the Ole Misses and all that right there, because if not, this is just going to be a trade-off for them. If A&M wins, they're going to pop in and Texas is going to go out or something like that.
Right.
Speaking of Kentucky, is Stoopsy on the hot seat?
Oh, it's got to be.
Somebody asked him this week if he was going to retire. I saw, and he, denied that. But if you're getting asked whether or not you're going to retire, things are not going well.
Yeah.
That's a Kentucky thing, by the way, because they tried to do that to John Calipari for like 5 years.
Except Stoopsy is not Calipari. In case you're wondering, in case you were curious about that. I don't know if
he's got to be, though. You got back-to-back years now where you brought in the transfer quarterback and it has not gone well at all.
I mean, you got weapons, dude. Like their skill positions on offense are good.
Totally.
Their offensive line is pretty good. Like they always have good offensive lines. Their quarterback is awful. Their offensive coordinator is awful.
Yeah, they can't figure it out on that side of the ball.
They can't I don't.
They can't scheme Barron Brown open for anything.
I don't get it, dude. Like throw some design screens, throw a couple of go balls to him because he can definitely stretch the field. And
listen,
let me
Mark Stoops played at Iowa. Mark Stoops played at Iowa.
Oh,
is there anything more Iowa than an offensively challenged team? I mean, seriously.
Iowa 4 points now.
Again, Kentucky is Big Ten. Everybody likes to say Missouri's Big Ten. Kentucky's Big Ten.
Missouri's Big 12.
Didn't Iowa score like 49 points in a game this year or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They beat the hell out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
They did that to Wisconsin.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. Out of all teams, they did it to Wisconsin. So, yeah.
Is it time for picks, Corey?
It is time for
You
picks.
already know, Jake. It is time for picks. And of course, these lines are presented by betonline.ag, your number one source for all your sports wagering needs. So let's get some of these cool games out of the way. Like Alabama at Mercer, yeah, because that would happen. Mercer's traveling to Tuscaloosa. We're all on the Alabama train. ULM is traveling to Auburn. We got some difference here.
Oh, Becky.
Mostly just in the spread.
I think it's just the spread.
Yeah.
A lot of points.
I don't think anybody thinks ULM's going to win.
No need to really explain that, but
General Booty.
and Kentucky, we're all great name, by the way. We're all unanimous on Kentucky. So let's start with a game we were just talking about. Texas travels to Arkansas, right? Is it at Jerry's World?
It's in Arkansas.
It's in Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Arkansas this year is not playing well at home. They're just not.
They probably want to go to Jerry's World. So
Yeah.
Texas is 16.5-point favorites on the road. Steve, are you buying Texas as the heavy favorites, or this Big 8 rivalry? Is there something to it?
It's not a Big 8 rival. It's a Southwest Conference rival.
Yeah. That
Back when you had 8 Texas schools in Arkansas. Get it right. I'm old enough to remember the Southwest Conference.
you're old enough to remember the original SEC.
Yeah. I remember the Southwest Conference when Oklahoma was in it. You have a situation that I've been looking forward to this rivalry for 8 months. Ever since the schedule came out, I've been excited about this game. And that is because there's not, present company excluded, there's not many people that hate Texas like Arkansas does. I mean, they genuinely hate those guys. And they're going to be fired up, and Sam Pittman understand what's going on. I do not know if they're going to be able to beat Texas, and it's especially not going to beat them down like they did a few years ago. But I do think Arkansas is going to cover the spread in this game, and it's going to be a lot closer game than people think.
Oh, okay. Now, speaking of really good games, there's some really good action going on. 0-9 Kent State is getting their ass handed to them by Miami of Ohio.
Talking about Tennessee's schedule.
Yeah, so they could use Julian Edelman right now. So Texas, I think, is going to they're hitting their stride, as we said. I think they're going to roll in this game. I just think
Texas beat a third-string quarterback from Yale.
They did.
Yeah,
they beat a Yale boy.
Rolling. That's what he said.
Yeah, they're rolling, dude. They're absolutely. You heard me. You heard it right. You heard it here first. They're rolling. I don't know. I'm just a believer in Texas with what they're doing right now, or at least for 1 week. Then maybe A&M will get them, but I don't think Arkansas is going to get them, and I don't think they're going to cover either.
Well, we're going to disagree on some later games, but I think we can all agree that we're all rooting for Arkansas.
But not to say I'm not rooting for them.
Yeah.
Just,
I'm pretty sure Becky's walking around with an Arkansas pennant.
Oh yeah, we're all.
I'm
big with this one.
And I will say the hardest job in all of sports is anybody recruiting for women's athletics at Arkansas, because trying to get somebody to sign up to be a lady hog, that has to be a tough sell.
So I'll say this, Jeb, before you get to your pick. I want if Arkansas is going, if I'm going to take an L in this pick, I want Arkansas to win outright. But if Texas wins, I want them to cover. So I can get the
I was more down on Arkansas after their last game until I saw what Ole Miss did to Georgia, and now I'm feeling like that's really not Arkansas's fault. So not too worried about that. But I do think this is the game that they will get up the most for this season. Like Steve said, this is one they just want bad. So I'm going to take Arkansas to cover this. I think they're going to come out and play hard. I don't know that they can win it, but I'm going to take them to cover.
I'm going to take Texas. Castillas too. I don't know. You look at quarterback play, and I know yours has had some issues turning the ball over, but Taylor Green has not looked really good at all at any point this year. I just don't know how they're going to move the ball against Texas and score and keep up with that, and keep it within 14, points to cover that spread. So I think Texas wins this probably by 17, 20 points.
Yeah. All right. Becky is going to take Arkansas.
Naturally.
Yeah.
I'm riding with Becky and Jeb. A similar thought here. I'd be very surprised if Arkansas could win, but I do think they will get up for this game. And I'm just interested to see how Texas, they did go to the Big House earlier this year, but their only other road game to this point has been at Vanderbilt. So this will be a tougher environment for them than they've seen for the most part. So I think Arkansas can keep it under the spread.
It's insane how garbage their schedule is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's brutally. Yeah, it's brutal. And
it's like just split the difference between Texas and Oklahoma. Just put.
Their most impressive win is Vandy.
Yes, it is.
Very much.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, it is. I'm riding with Texas here. I don't think that Arkansas matches up well with this team. Arkansas doesn't force a lot of turnovers. Texas has had the turnover issues this year, but if Arkansas doesn't force a lot of turnovers, then I don't think they're going to be able to take advantage of that. Meanwhile, on the other side, you've got Texas, who's got one of the best defenses in the country. They've got the best defense in the SEC. I think Texas is hitting their stride right now. The other matchup I'm looking at is we just saw Quinn Ewers throw it all over Florida. 5 touchdowns. I think it was over 300-something yards. Arkansas has the worst pass defense in the SEC. So I just don't see Arkansas being able to slow Texas down enough in order to get the win here or in order to cover. I'm sure they'll be up. Maybe they keep it tight in the first quarter. But after that, I think Texas takes control. So I'm taking the horns in this one.
The one thing that everybody needs to think about and look for in this ball game is Landon Jackson versus the Texas offensive line. He is the one Arkansas player that can do to Texas what Georgia did. So if he is able to get pressure on Ewers and all that, he could force some mistakes and turnovers in Arkansas. That game could get funky.
Jesus, and I looked that up because I felt like y'all had to be kidding. Vanderbilt is their best win.
Yeah, they are.
That is sad.
Yeah, this is the number 3 team in the country, supposedly. And then Penn State, anybody know Penn State's best win? Right off the top of your head?
Illinois?
Yeah. Illinois, the Fighting Illini.
Wow.
And then Indiana does not have a win over a team that has gotten a single vote in the AP poll.
Now you know, Jeb, why that Matt Hayes article came out the other week talking about how all the ADs and the coaches were texting each other like, this is ridiculous that Texas got this gift of a schedule their first year in the SEC.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it again looked a little tougher at the beginning, but not much. Michigan and
they got lucky.
Oklahoma.
Florida sucks. They got lucky.
Yeah.
Oklahoma sucks. Michigan
Mississippi State.
sucks.
Yeah.
They got.
You're right.
Hey, in 2008, that would have been a bear of a schedule for Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2014, it would have been an even worse because you had Mississippi State with Dak Prescott. Number one. Speaking of number
Lord.
one,
He ain't no more.
Big Game Brian. Yeah, he's definitely not. Big Game Brian travels to Gainesville to take on the Fighting Shoe Throwers in the Florida Gators. This game is 4.5 points. It's an interesting spread for a team that seemingly was supposed to be in the playoff talks until last week. And then Florida, they just got boat raced, and this is a close spread, which is fascinating. Steve, are you buying Florida at all, or is it all on LSU?
It might be all on LSU because I realize that LSU, there is a path to the SEC title game, which a win gets an automatic berth. So they're not technically eliminated from the college football playoff yet, but they're on quit watch right now. There's a lot that has to happen for LSU to make it into that game. And if you look there, DJ Lagway's questionable. Elijah Badger's questionable. Montrell Johnson has moved up to questionable. But it's going to come down to, believe it or not, Garrett Nussmeier and that LSU offense. If Florida can keep a low-scoring game, I mean, like I said, Notre Dame box. If Florida installs a spinner in the backfield, they probably could just befuddle this LSU defense, and because everybody that has a running quarterback has just embarrassed them. And this goes back to Lenore Sellers. He had an 80-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me LSU in that one, I guess.
Yeah, I just have no other reason to pick Florida So I'm gonna take LSU. I just, for no other reason other than Florida is just decimated. Their roster is just toast, and they extended Billy Napier, which might have been a mistake.
Yeah, and DJ Lagway, he has a hamstring. He just needs to be injured this week. He needs to be injured next week and just come back against FSU because he does not want to be out there with an injured hamstring against Ole Miss's defensive line.
No, he needs 2 hamstrings for that.
Yeah,
he has one.
No, I'm going to agree. If the spread was bigger, I might look at Florida being able to cover that. But Florida's a bad team. LSU is real up and down. They've had a couple of good wins. They've had a couple of really bad losses. Not really bad. Texas A&M and Alabama, of course, are both really good teams. That USC loss at the beginning of the season looks terrible, but whatever. But I just can't bet on Florida, and I'm gonna sort of root for them without actually rooting because I hate Florida, but I do want them to win. But I think LSU's going to. So.
Yeah, we're picking LSU here. If DJ Lagway wasn't on that injury report and he was fully healthy, I think he could make the difference here. But with him being questionable, even if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. And those pass rushers for LSU can get after him. And if he does play and cause havoc, but if he doesn't, then they have no shot whatsoever. So give me LSU.
Yeah, and Becky is taking LSU on that one. And Omar the Tiger, hey, he is a Florida Tiger, so maybe he can get a home game on the sideline at the Swamp.
Yeah,
that's right. I'm taking LSU. Same thing y'all all said. Jake, you just nailed it. I think if Lagway's healthy, they have a chance. Mm-hmm. But even if he's, plays but isn't 100%, he's not going to be that effective with his legs. So I'll take LSU to cover.
Yep.
I'm thinking along similar lines here. It all hinges on DJ Lagway, whether or not he plays. Last week, I think I picked Florida to cover against Texas, and the reason being was I thought that DJ Lagway would be the X factor there that would allow Florida to cover. It doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Billy Napier, what he's saying is he's saying the same stuff he said last week when they were leading into the Texas game, which sounds like he's just trying to make sure that the other team is kind of, off kilter a little bit as to who they're going to prepare for. So I would be surprised to see DJ Lagway in this game. But even if he does play, I think LSU just has the better team overall, right? A better roster right now. I especially think too that, looking at LSU's, if Garrett Nussmeier doesn't turn the ball over like he's been doing lately, LSU's passing offense is going to be able to go crazy on this Florida pass defense. Yeah. It has one of the worst pass defenses in the SEC, and all those weapons for the Tigers on the outside. I like LSU in this game, so give me the Tigers.
Boss man, one thing that's funny is like Billy Napier wants them to prepare for both quarterbacks. You don't have to prepare for eight.
That's right.
Right.
If you prepare for DJ Lagway, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Right. If Lagway plays, prepare for him. If he doesn't play, it doesn't matter because you're going to win anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the reason I'm kind of joking about the whole Tennessee. Oh, don't even prepare for Nico. It's fine. No, you just prepare for Nico. You don't have to prepare for the backup.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hey, Oklahoma thought that against Missouri last week, and
Georgia's going to prepare for the backup.
Yeah.
They can handle the starter.
Oh my goodness. That fumble at the end of the game, not putting two hands on the freaking football. Oklahoma deserves everything they get right now.
Yeah.
I agree.
Hold on to the football.
That whole thing screwed up my pick. I was bad last week, and I had Oklahoma. I looked at the bottom line. I was like, okay, good. Check on that one. Nope.
that was the only game I missed last week.
Mm-hmm.
Red hot.
Yeah. Should have picked Missouri. Should have picked Missouri.
Yeah.
All right. So our next game is featuring. Let me pull it back up.
Missouri.
South Carolina. Speaking of Missouri, they're traveling to South Carolina. South Carolina's 13.5-point favorite. Steve, are you on the Sandstorm bandwagon?
Yes, absolutely. This team has turned into quietly a pretty good team. And if you look at Missouri and South Carolina have had remarkably similar schedules over the last 5 games, with games against Texas A&M and Oklahoma and everything. But if you look at them side by side, I hate playing transitive property. Texas A&M blew out Missouri. South Carolina beat Texas A&M. South Carolina blew out Oklahoma. Missouri barely beat Oklahoma. It's just repeats over and over again. And the reality is, I think Missouri is just kind of a fraudulent kind of team that is taking advantage of having a very lax schedule. So give me the South Carolina Gamecocks playing at home.
Yes, I am buying completely into South Carolina. I watched on a second screen. I watched them completely dismantle Vanderbilt, and usually that's not really
It's
much.
So weird to live in this timeline.
No, it is.
It's usually not an argument, but like they just quickly, that defensive line is amazing. That Lenore Sellers is really starting to figure things out. Dowell Loggins is really starting to figure things out. He's starting to understand, hey, Lenore Sellers is good at doing X, Y, Z, and he's calling plays to capitalize and to take advantage of X, Y, Z instead of PDQ, which they were at the beginning of the year. They weren't really in sync sometimes, and they were winning games with defense. Now they're just more of a complete team now. It's a shame that they lost LSU. It's a shame that they lost Alabama, or they would probably be number one in the SEC right now. But I'm taking South Carolina here. I think they're going to absolutely crush Missouri. They're not going to have any chance to block Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart. And I think Rocket Sanders is going to go off in this game. And Laura Sellers is going to go off because they struggled with Diego Pavia earlier in the season. They were going to struggle with this group too.
Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to take Missouri here with the spread, and I just feel like Missouri, maybe just because they were supposed to be better than they were, I just feel like they're still a decent team. Losing their quarterback, of course, hurt a lot. But, I looked at it, though, and they're kind of like Texas. Their best win this season is Vanderbilt, and they barely beat them. So that worries me a lot. And South Carolina has definitely hit their stride. So as much as I think I might be, I know it's so weird.
How did we get here? Yeah,
it's they beat Auburn. Nobody cares, but Vandy, that's a good.
Yeah, it's like, wow, that's a big win.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is definitely Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I think in this one I was kind of wanting Missouri to win, so I've decided to change it. I'm going to go with South Carolina because honestly, if you look at everything, I just feel like they're the much better team. So.
They're fun to watch, man. They really are.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch. I've thought I'd never say that about a South Carolina team because I'm not really a South Carolina fan. But
I think I just still hold a lot of animosity to them for a couple years ago, hurting Hendon Hooker, ruining our great season. And they were ruining it before they hurt him, I understand. But still, they did both in that game.
So many of those games, Georgia, 2012, probably one of the most electric atmospheres at William Bryce Stadium I've ever seen in my life.
That stadium is low-key awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
When I asked Israel what the most difficult stadium he played in on the road, he didn't, and he played at LSU. He didn't say LSU. He said South Carolina was the most difficult, was the loudest. What Israel didn't get to do, and it's a shame, is he never got to go to the Swamp, because I bet a Georgia-Florida game in Florida, a Florida home game, would be a cauldron.
Yeah.
He's definitely in favor of keeping it in Jacksonville because he said that was one of the coolest environments he's ever seen with the dividing and the split. He said Oklahoma State was low-key a really hard place to play.
Slap the paddles.
Yeah.
Jeb, are you guys wearing the orange helmets this weekend?
Not that I know of.
I'm just kidding. There ain't no
I was gonna. We better not.
Y'all keep those on the river, man. Those are gone.
Y'all should show up in dark mode.
Yeah.
Dress for a funeral.
Yeah.
It's an away game. We're gonna wear white.
Y'all going white on orange, or y'all going full stormtrooper?
I'm guessing white on orange, but I have not actually seen. So
Hey,
keep it alive.
No, we'll get to that game in a minute. No, let's finish up this here.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Still doing this with South Carolina.
So me and Cassie's picking South Carolina here. Steve, you mentioned it, kind of like the teams that Missouri and South Carolina have played. Again, Alabama is another common team. Alabama destroyed Missouri. They barely squeaked by and probably should have lost to South Carolina. And Shane Beamer is having another great year, coaching wise, because he's got a true freshman redshirt quarterback. and he just getting it all together, and it's good to see, because I really like Shane Beamer, and I've been high on him since he's been at South Carolina, but I just don't know if Missouri can move the ball enough against that front line. Again, Kennard, he's going to be in the backfield all day, and I think Stewart's on the opposite side. I mean, you get 2 seconds to throw the ball, and Missouri is not going to have that much time to throw the ball with them two guys terrorizing.
Missouri lost their center.
Yeah, so they have – I don't think they have no shot here. So we're taking South Carolina.
And Becky is taking Missouri, but I think that's just to be different.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm rolling with South Carolina too. This is their third conference road game of the year. Their first two, they lost by 31 to A&M and 34 to Alabama. So I think South Carolina rolls.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
After the game last week, Eli Drinkwitz was talking to Cole Kubelik, and he said, yeah, I said playoffs. This keeps us in the playoff hunt. Playoffs. You heard me right.
Oh, my gosh.
So after they win this game, they're going to the playoffs. Just kidding. Not happening. I am taking Missouri, though. I'm taking Missouri to cover the spread here, and the only reason being is I think that's a big spread, 13.5 points. I know South Carolina has drubbed a couple teams. They've drubbed A&M, but I'm not completely sold just yet on South Carolina being able to cover a spread like that. I also think that Missouri is going to have a little bit of a game plan to try to neutralize Kennard and Dylan Storr on that front line. I'm sure that those guys are going to be in the backfield all night. I'm not denying that, but I do think they're going to try and get the ball out quick to Luther Burton, maybe some quick slants, try to neutralize that line. And they've got some weapons on the outside. You got Theo Weiss, so don't discount Mizzou. I'm not saying that's a good team. I've been dogging them all year. I don't think they're very good, but I do think they can cover this spread. But I do think that South Carolina ends up getting a comfortable win, probably say by 10 or so.
All righty.
Hey, let's do the New Mexico State game first and close out on the last one.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. New Mexico State. I think Diego Pavia is rolling in here. A&M 40.
They wish they had him.
This is a freaking spread. I think
it's a lot of points. This is a whole bunch of points, but I don't think it'll matter.
Yeah.
Just give me A&M.
This will be like when I tried to get cute on my super dog league at school and pick Arkansas Pine Bluff because they were 49-point underdogs, and that didn't work out well. So I'm gonna take A&M.
Yeah, actually, I am too. I don't really have much excuse here. This could be one where they kind of get a little lazy and don't score as much as they could, but I doubt it. I'm taking A&M to cover.
I'm taking New Mexico State. 40.5 is a huge spread, and Texas A&M is going to absolutely destroy New Mexico State in this game. But can they get to that 41, 42 point threshold? I mean, if just say New Mexico State gets 10 points, I don't know if they can cover. So I'm going to take it just because of how far the spread is. Cassie's taking A&M.
I'm taking A&M. I don't know anything about New Mexico State now that Pavia and Jerry Kill are gone, so I'll just take them to cover.
The 2-7, they're garbage, but pretty much
they're garbaggio.
Mm-hmm.
All of their best players transferred to Vanderbilt.
Pretty much, and their best coaches.
Yeah. Half their staff and half their roster. It's the reason why Vandy is the Vandy State Aggie doors.
Right.
I won't spend too much time on this one, but I will say I have watched Texas A&M football my entire life, and we are notorious for screwing around with teams like Northwestern State and UTSA and all this junk. And usually when there's a big spread like this, we do not cover it. We come out sloppy in the first quarter, and then eventually we end up winning the game, right? And the score looks a lot better than the game actually was. So I've seen way too much Texas A&M football to believe that we're going to cover a 40.5 spread against anybody. So I'm taking New Mexico State to cover the spread, but I think A&M wins very comfortably. Just don't cover a 40.5 point spread.
I agree.
I can see that.
I could see
Trader.
I could see them.
Trader. Homer. Yeah. You're the Homer, Hammer.
I know I am. It's been come back to bite me this year on the
The Homer Hammer.
Yeah.
Dope. When Hammer hits his hammer, it says dope instead of. All right. Yeah.
Simpsons joke.
All right,
Simpsons humor.
Corey, get on to the last one.
All right, see you guys later.
Yeah.
Tennessee rolls into Athens. It's 9.5 points. We talked about it at length. Now it's time to make the pick. Steve, are you believing in Georgia in redemption, bounce back, or does Tennessee knock them out of the playoffs?
I think Georgia's going to win this game. When you take – it's bad luck for Tennessee. There's a couple of things that's working against the Vols right now. We know about their defense is pretty good. Their offense has not been pretty good, and their strength is inside run game, and Georgia's pretty good at stopping the inside run game. So that means the points are going to be hard to come by in this game. If Georgia can figure some stuff out, the game is being played at Athens. It is at night. I think the Georgia Bulldogs is just a different animal whenever you're playing that place at night. So give me the Georgia Bulldogs to kind of figure out what's going on. I do not necessarily think they're going to even score 20. I just don't know if Tennessee's going to be able to score 10.
Ooh, yeah. I've been on the fence with this one. I mean, Carson Beck has just been absolutely dreadful this season. But I do think the defense is going to take this one a little personal. They got worked over by Ole Miss, and I think Kirby's going to finally have this game to be like, okay, well, I got one last shot at pulling the Michael Jordan "we took this personally" card, and I think that's going to come against Tennessee. Now they're going to have to pull that card back out against Georgia Tech in a few weeks because they're going to need that one. But for now, I think their playoff hopes are alive. They win, they beat Tennessee. It's a low-scoring affair. But I do think they are going to bump this thing 10 points higher than Tennessee, like a 17-7 type game.
Homer.
Go.
Homer.
Get ready to say that again, because intellectually, I agree. I understand where you're coming from. I know how that. I get it. Georgia's going to be mad. Georgia's at home. It's a night game. I feel like they're going to come out and play a lot better than they did last week. At the same time, Tennessee does not give up points. They just don't. We have the best running back in the SEC. I feel like Tennessee is going to come out and just found a way to pound this rock, which I know they don't. I get what you're saying about the inside running being tough. I think they figured out with Mississippi State, though, that was a mistake too, because they kept trying to do that. It did not work. Tennessee figured it out a little bit later on, how to really get Dylan Sampson going, which he does in pretty much every game. I mean, he put up 145 yards last week, got him another touchdown, which is 20, I think, for the season on him. I just feel like Tennessee is going to find a way to win this game. It's going to be ugly because Tennessee tends to win ugly, and that's fine. As long as they're winning, Tennessee's going to win. I take the Vols.
You know, when we started the show talking about this, Jeb, Steve made the comment that you can piss off Ole Miss and Alabama fans. You're not going to piss me off. I really like this Tennessee team. Alabama should have had you guys a few weeks ago.
You're
three.
I was wondering why you were picking Texas.
Yeah. Hey, the real UT, baby. But no, I mean, Alabama forced 3 turnovers in the first half and could not capitalize. This says a lot about your defense. I mean, Alabama had really short fields in those situations, and Tennessee just locked in. And I know Jalen Miller didn't play his best game in that game, but I would take Jalen Miller over Carson Beck at this point right now. And I just do not trust Carson Beck to lead either a game-winning drive or any kind of drive, sustain a drive per se for Georgia right now. They just got issues with him. They got weapons everywhere that he just can't get it together mentally here. And I just think, with Nico probably more than likely playing. I had Georgia because there was talks about him not with a concussion, but I did see the coach Harple come out and say that he's pretty much online to go to play. So that I immediately changed my pick. So Nico plays. He's a difference maker. Give me Tennessee.
Becky is going to take Tennessee because she's from Tennessee.
And Cassidy is taking Georgia because she's a homer.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got you, Jeb.
I got you too, Jeb. I'm rolling with the Vols here. This game to me more than anything, I won't even really get into the matchups. I just think this is too big of a spread. I think 9.5 with Tennessee's defense. I don't see Georgia scoring enough to pull that far ahead. So I'll take Tennessee to at least cover in this one.
I like Tennessee too. I'm looking at their defense, especially. This is the second best defense in the SEC. +4 in turnover margin. We've seen all year what Georgia's been doing in terms of turnovers. You see their Carson Beck turned the ball over. They had a couple fumbles against Ole Miss. So I just like where this Tennessee Vols defense is in this matchup against Georgia. I think it's going to be a rock fight in a phone booth, and I think it probably is a low scoring game because Georgia's got a good defense too. And Nico has been, so. And so if he's a little bit banged up, I think that it probably lends itself to a low-scoring game. But I like Dylan Sampson to do enough to get the Vols over the hump to go along with that defense, who I think backs him up with a couple of turnovers. So give me the Vols.
And I think recency bias is taking over everybody's thought. Then they do need to remember that Georgia did score 30 against Texas. That did happen.
But nobody's even scored 20 on Tennessee.
But it was more defense. It was all defense, mainly.
Yeah, Georgia is always going to be a defense to offense team. Always. If Nico comes into the game and he turns the ball over, something like that, there's that Georgia trap that is always prevalent whenever you play the Dogs.
I believe you.
Yeah, I listen. I saw
not this year.
15 years of people saying that the Saban Alabama dynasty was dead after every time they lost. To sit here and think that Kirby Smart is just going to it's over, we're done, let's go home. So that was my point there.
No, and that's true. And I still think Georgia is one of, if not the best team in college football right now. It's just Tennessee this year, after so many years, can win those close, gritty games, and I just love it. And I feel like they're going to keep doing it. But they could fall apart at any minute, and if you're going to, Georgia's the team to fall apart against. Believe me, I know.
Turnovers are such a big deal too. Like turnovers with Carson Beck right now, he's turning the ball over against Florida 3 times against Florida. There's 3 turnovers in every game for Georgia right now, and against teams like Tennessee, that's going to cost you. It cost them last week against Ole Miss. A good team is going to get you, and a team like Florida is not going to be able to do it. But a team like Tennessee, you turn the ball over 3 times, you're playing with fire.
Right.
And also people need to remember that coaches are stubborn. They're really stubborn. They do not truly change until it bites them in the butt. Georgia is going to scheme that offensive line harder than they have this entire season to make sure the ball is getting out of Carson Beck's hand. They're going to do some different stuff. The run game is going to look a little different. Just because it finally jumped up and bit them, and Georgia hadn't lost a game to anybody not named Alabama in 52 games. Well, now that's over. I imagine Kirby Smart was happy that he was able to send people back to work, and they really started going in on them.
Yeah, Jeb, I think I know where you're going with this because you being the resident Tennessee fan. But Hammer Boss Man, are you picking them outright? Or are you just picking them to cover the spread?
I'm picking the Vols outright.
Me too.
Nice.
I think I'll just pick them to cover the spread. It worries me being in Athens, and everything Steve just said. I think you're going to get Georgia's best game, and that defense with Nico, even if he's healthy on the road, does worry me. So I think Georgia will win outright, but Tennessee will cover.
This will be Georgia backed up in a corner, and that could be scary. It just could. There's still 4- and 5-star players all over the field.
Can you imagine what they would do to Massachusetts the week after that?
Oh my goodness!
If they lost,
if they lost, they're on quit watch.
Yeah,
they're definitely on quit watch if they lost. Because
if they lost because the playoffs over.
And
this is not a team that's going to be.
Hey, and Tennessee, if they lose, they still got Vandy on the horizon too. I mean, they could be on quit watch.
Yeah.
True.
If Tennessee loses to Georgia, Tennessee is losing to Vanderbilt.
But the thing is, Tennessee will only have 2 losses at that point. They're still in the hunt for the playoffs if they lose. Where Georgia would not. So
don't let these guys bury you, Jeb.
No,
before it's even over.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I
Tennessee
think
is 8-4. Oh, never mind.
UTEP's gonna get us. It's a trap game.
Which, by the way, the coach there is Scotty Waldron, I believe, who came from Austin P.
Oh,
He
nice.
runs a lot of tempo. He's a good guy. Now UTEP doesn't have anything, but they're going to be schemed up pretty good.
They got cool retro helmets this year. They do have those.
Mhm.
That's about it.
Cool stadium, Sun Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Corey, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right. So thank you for watching this this magical mystery tour we call SEC After Dark. We haven't really gone off the rails too much. That's usually our brand, so we need to get off the rails at some point this season.
No, we will.
Maybe
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 weeks we'll definitely be off the rails, so it'll be kind of crazy. But anyway, if you wanna listen to a great Ole Miss podcast, I suggest you listen to Stephen Willis. He I think he's up to 1.25 million subscribers now at this point.
Something like that. I think Guam subscribes to me.
I thought I saw this in
Not
Times
just
Square.
someone from Guam, like
Yeah,
Guam.
the whole island is whatever. They're super Ole Miss fans in Guam.
Nice.
Steve's a legend in Cambodia. So
Yeah. We're just making sure that island's not tipping over. That's all.
it's not, because Lane Kiffin's got a firm grasp on it. Jeb Beecham, if he ever wants to host Vols After Dark, he could do it if he wanted to. It's open. This channel needs a Tennessee show, but thankfully it's Jeb, so we won't get a Tennessee show.
Yeah, because I don't know what I'm talking about, though, and I think we can all agree on that.
That don't matter.
Probably true.
Jake Thomas, Tide Talk Live, maybe soon to be Bama After Dark or whatever you want to call it, but that's the gist of it. Hammer and Boss Man, Biscuits and SEC. If you're missing out, you're truly missing out. And then me, I used to could say I covered both ends of the spectrum in the SEC, but that's not true anymore because I don't cover Mississippi State. So it's Vandy, Locked on Vandy, Believe in Georgia
They're
Dogs.
so bad. They're so bad.
It's tough to watch, but
Oh my
anyway.
God.
What's not tough to watch is this show. So
That's right.
go out, subscribe to all of these shows I just mentioned. Jeb, you don't have one yet, so you can't subscribe to it, but subscribe to everything. All right. Subscribe to Locked on Vandy, Believe in Georgia Dogs, Locked on Ole Miss. You'll be one of 3 million subscribers. And then Tide Talk Live as well. So that being said, we hope you have a great rest of your evening. We hope you have a great rest of your week/weekend. If you go to a game, be careful, be responsible, and hope your team wins, unless your team is Tennessee. Until then, go Dogs, anchor down.
Hotty toddy.
Go Vols.
Roll Tide.
Get 'em.
War Eagle. Oh.
Go Hoosiers. Hoosier up.
Hoosiers?
Go Pig.